everyone, and welcome to another video from Colour with Claire. So since I put this work in progress image on my social media channels, I've had a few different comments asking how I achieved this eyeglass kind of look, this very shiny glass-like effect in this colouring book, which is Jules Franda. Don't know if that's how you say it, by Hannah Colson. It's her new book. So a couple of people have been asking me how I did this, and I thought I'd do a quick video tutorial so that you can see how it's done and maybe adapt it to other colouring books that feature kind of glass or mirror, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to be trying that out today, and hopefully you'll be able to take that and use it kind of anywhere in any different colouring book. So I've just been doodling a few circles out here with my template, and we'll get started with how it looked when it was in the book originally. So it wasn't just a circle for that eyeglass, it did actually have some lines on there already. So just to be true to the original, I'll just draw those in now so you can see. So you could also do this if you've just got a circle in a book that you want to make look like a mirror, or something similar to that. So you just draw in some very random lines. The only thing really that you've got to make sure happens is that all of your lines are completely parallel to one another. So we don't want kind of wobbly lines or lines going kind of this way and that way. They've all got to be in the same direction. So you also need to do it from the other side, and it might be easier to turn your paper around. And again, trying to keep the lines all in the same direction. So just doing a few there. It doesn't really matter where you put them, it's super random. And I'm just going to do a few little ones as well, not sticking to the lines as usual, but you get the idea. So just going to thicken that up a little bit, and that is kind of basically what Hannah's eyepiece looked like before I coloured it. So it had lots of little tiny lines, directional lines, just kind of helping you to see where to colour it in. So the first thing I did was I followed the lines with a 90% cool grey from the Prismacolors. You can use any pencils you like, and I just followed the lines like this. So very, very simple technique. There's no skill required. Following the lines, and again from the other side. Now you want to make sure that some of your lines are longer than others. So we want a little bit of variation. So let's just drag out a few more lines here and a few here. So you've got that variation in length. Then what I did was I took the 70% cool grey and just did a few kind of interim lines, so in between, still kind of sticking at the lengths that you put down initially. So this is just kind of to fill in the gaps a little bit. Then I took the slate grey, because we're trying now to move into a very cool blue. That's going to give that kind of glass impression. And with that slate grey, again, just popping the lines in. Now finally for colours, I used the muted turquoise. So that's like one step up from the slate grey, and it just gives a slight more crispness to the blue than just having the slate grey. So there we go. You can see we've got a bit of a white area in the centre where the two sides don't meet. So what I then did was go back in with the 90% cool grey and start to fill in any gaps around the crescent edges of the circle. So I'm just going to do this really roughly, but just stick within the parameters of the shape that you're colouring, and create a bit of a crescent shape with your darkest colour. Again on this side. And you can bring those to meet at the edges, but it's quite a good idea to try and thicken the two opposing sides of the circle, and then the top and the bottom are quite thin. It just gives that look of roundedness. So we make the crescent quite thick here, and then it tapers off either side. So then you can go sort of in stages with your colours again. So the next one was the 70% cool grey. Again, just a bit more pressure, another layer to completely, well, not completely burnish, but just to fill in some of the tooth of the paper. And then your slate grey. Now just making sure at this stage that you're not kind of blocking in all of the colour. We still want to have those strokes visible. So it might be an idea at this stage just to do this kind of motion so that you are going up and down, following the same direction, but at the same time you are filling in some of the gaps, the tooth in the paper. So exactly the same at the other side. And then the muted turquoise as the final accent colour. Making sure that your lines are still very random and jagged in the middle. We don't want a very linear strip of white. We want a jagged strip. You can also use your muted turquoise as the blender pencil or the burnisher over the top of the previous greys that we've put down. You can also use a colourless blender pencil, you could use a white pencil, you could use odourless mineral spirits, just something that flattens out the tooth a little bit more, and it dulls the very darkest of the greys down just a little bit, so it all blends rather nicely. Okay, so when you've done that, you're going to need your white pencil, which is going to blur the glass. So glass doesn't have these strokes on it, it's very much kind of blurred and soft edged. So you take this and you're going to be quite hard with your pressure, and you're going to go across the centre of your circle, up and down, and you might have to do that just a couple of times. Until it's nice and blurred. We want that blurred look. So it's up to you really at this stage to take a look at it and see if it looks how you want it to look. Now I'm just going to take a second to look at this, and I'm thinking I should probably blend a few of these strokes out just slightly, kind of at the sides of the circle. So they're okay in the centre. I don't mind, the centre bit's fine, it's just at the edges. So I'm going to take the next lightest grey from the very darkest, which was the 70% cool grey, and I'm just going to fill in a bit of the space here so it doesn't look so liney right up to the edge of the circle, if that makes sense. But again, just keeping your strokes in that same direction. We don't want to start going this way, it's going to completely mess up the effect that we're going for. So just keep it very straight. I'm also going to bring in just a little bit more of that very darkest grey, the 90%, just to fill in further the edges here. Again, it really is kind of up to you to gauge where, you know, what else needs doing to it, if it does need any further messing around with. Just to get the exact look that we're going for. So I've just filled in a few of those kind of sketchy areas at the edges of the circle. Again, I would probably say bring in a bit of muted turquoise just to further further blur the line where the edge of the darkest grey meets the lightest greys and the lightest blues. And then once you've done that, you can again finally go over the centre with that white pencil, very, very hard pressure there, and you'll have this very blurred, very almost metallic-y look, which I think is a fantastic kind of technique to do for glass or mirrors. Mirrors, you might want to scale back the dark lines, if that makes sense. So you don't want the lines to come so far into the center. You might want to scale that back so that you've got more white and light blue than you have darkness. So for mirrors, obviously, you want it to look kind of clear or reflective, and that kind of having this dark edge that comes right the way into the center, it kind of defeats the object. So if you're doing a mirror, you could do this exact same technique, but just scale the darkest areas back slightly so they don't meet in the center. But I think for glass, especially shadowed glass, you know, like with the eyepiece in the book, you want it to look just kind of like the light's hitting it, but it could be dark, you know, and it's up to you if you want to use the colors that I've used or similar alternative colors. If you wanted to try something totally different and go for coloured glass, you could do that as well with exactly the same technique. So let's just do a really quick example off the cuff, because I haven't practiced this or anything, but I'm going to take some pink, I think. Let's try pink glass. So I'm going to go with, let me see, I'm going to go with, what have we got? Black cherry. Let's just do a small one just to see what we can do here. So different colours, you don't have to stick to those kind of metallic-y greys and things like that. So let's do one of these really quickly. So I've got the black cherry, and even though I don't have the lines on here, that's fine. I'll just do them myself. So really random. And then just filling in a little bit, going around the circle in that crescent shape that I showed you. So thicker in the center and then tapering out toward the edges. So just doing this quickly for demonstration purposes, but you can take more time and get it looking much nicer than this. So the crescent shape is there. Again, you can just quickly do this kind of motion to fill in a little bit of the gaps between. Next colour, let's look at raspberry. So filling in those gaps again, following the lines that you've already put down. So I'm just doing a kind of scumbling here. I know I said to keep the lines directional, but when you're kind of filling in the tooth and you want it to look flat and smooth, you can afford to do a bit of scumbling, because you're not going to be able to tell the difference anyway. So here we are. Next I'll go for, let's go for the process red. Doing exactly the same thing, just extending the lines very slightly, but still making sure we've got that bit of white in the center. And again, let's just scumble over it. Get it looking a little more flattish at the sides. And finally, let's try the hot pink. So these are actually the colours that I used for the hair of the steampunk lady in the book. So if you wanted to emulate that, you just use these same colours. So there we go. We've still got the black cherry lines showing, still giving us that look that we're after. Then you're going to need your white, obviously, to do the burnishing. So I'll just clean that off. and very hard pressure. And there we go. So exact same technique, different colours. And you could be doing coloured glass, a coloured mirror, you know, just anything really. If you've got fantasy kind of colouring books and you want to create this mystical look, maybe it's a crystal ball or something like that. You could use purples. But it's just a really fun technique. It's very quick and simple. And I think it's quite effective. Again, if you don't think there's enough contrast, because contrast is always really important to me, you can go back in with your darkest colours and build up the colour again so that you've got that lovely dark area to offset the white in the middle and just really make it pop. A lot of people ask me, why does colouring look so flat or not vibrant? And it really is a contrast issue. So as long as you can make your darkest areas as dark as possible and your lightest areas as light as possible, you will get this look of popping out of the page. And if you feel like you've lost some of your lines, you can bring them back in with sharp pencil, so sharp black cherry in this case. And you can see now that I've deepened and darkened that colour a little bit, we are getting more of a three-dimensional pop going on. So again, just using my hot pink as my blending pencil. Now if you really wanted to go the whole hog and get the contrast to maximum, because we've got white in the centre, what is the opposite of white? Of course it is black. And you can come in and add a little bit of black just to the rim of the circle. And that again will just give that contrast a massive boost. It's just a little bit of colour, but it really makes all the difference. Then just blend it out. So there we go, another super simple tutorial. Sometimes I think my tutorials are too simple really to even bother filming, and I think is people going to take the mick? That's just me, that's just my anxious mind. But I do know that there are a lot of you out there like me who appreciate things to be shown step by step, even if they do seem relatively simple. So please let me know in the comments if this has been useful for you. Do leave me a thumbs up because that really helps the channel, and obviously subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon on Colour with Claire.